check this out, guys. We're calling it December disorder. That is because all of these things have been happening, and we have only reached the 7th of December. You've got conference title games, the recruiting contact period, bowl games, transfer portal window opening, and then, of course, you cannot forget about National Signing Day on December 20th. And here in studio, two guys to make sense of it all who have both tons of experience in this realm, Carl Reed and Smoke Dixon. And I'll start with you, Carl. From your perspective, from talking to players, talking to coaches, personnel, just put into words for us how simply chaotic this time of year is.
Well, it's very chaotic. It's a lot of madness because you have so many moving parts. You got bowl games. You have high school recruiting with National Signing Day coming up. You have the transfer portal. And not only, Emily, do you have to address the players coming, you have to address the players going. And on top of that, college coaches are traveling all over the country to different high schools, checking in on the top players in the country. Your ability to be organized right now, your ability to manage your roster, because you should have been prepared for a lot of this, that's the big separator in the winners and losers of this month.
What have you
Yeah,
seen?
I mean, at the end of the day, Coach, it's business as usual for the guys on the personnel side, from who I've talked to. Because if you've been taking care of your roster and properly managing it, none of this should be a surprise to you. Guys that are leaving getting from the portal and guys that are leaving your team, you should already understand that there are a chance for them to leave. So you have to be properly prepared for what's going to happen moving forward in December.
I mean, this was you this time last year as a former general manager of a Power 5 program. So for those that might not know what it means to be prepared, how do you best manage this time of year so nothing catches you by surprise?
Well, the first thing I like to tell everybody, make sure that you hire someone in-house that can properly manage your roster. Because if you don't, you're going to be in that chaotic situation. So the thing that Coach Loxley and I did last year when we were at Maryland, the first meeting that we had was after the second signing day, because we knew at the end of the day what we had to do to make sure that the 85 scholarships, the grid that we had in front of us, we had each player at that position, then it was properly scanned out, because we wanted 41 players on offense, 41 players on defense, and we had a scholarship for 3 on special teams. So that gives you your 85. Out of the 85, each position group, we also had a goal that we wanted to hit. For example, we wanted 4 quarterbacks, 5 running backs, 16 offensive linemen, and so on and so on. So after that, we had our spring meeting. So now we had to identify guys that were leaving for the NFL draft, guys that was graduating through attrition, that we're going to lose, but also at-risk transfer portal guys. Because we knew the second window in the transfer portal was soon upon us, and we had to make sure we have to have the right numbers going into the season. So if we were losing 3 offensive linemen in the second portal after we had the exit meeting, it was my job to make sure that we had 5 guys lined up to take official visits during the spring so we can replenish our offensive line. So after that now, we decide on how many guys that we wanted to sign out of our high school class, because we knew that we wanted to make sure that in our high school class, we finished it up between the summer and before December got here. So now when December got here, we knew that we needed 5 guys in the portal. So we identified the 5 that we needed through us going through teams that we know that was going to lose players. Everybody said no poaching was going to happen, but everyone's doing the poaching. It's not direct, but indirect. If I'm watching the team and understand what the team's needs and wants are, we're identifying those guys that are potential might become available. So when December hits, none of us are running around shocked, not knowing what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like as a personnel guy, that can be kind of your sole focus, but I'm thinking of some of these coaches that are both managing all of this that's going on with their personnel, and also it's a good problem to have, I guess, Carl, that you're prepping for bowl games. So how does all of this happening in December have an impact on postseason play?
Well, it has an impact on it because guys going in the transfer portal have typically left your football team.
Yeah.
And so when you add those to the guys that are opting out of bowls because they're getting ready for the draft, you can be experiencing significant losses. I think a couple of coaches have been innovative here recently because they are allowing players to play in the bowl game. A lot of coaches' egos won't let them do that. A guy says he's going in the transfer portal, so they want him to vacate and leave the building immediately. But I do think you owe your fan base and your football team a situation where you're not playing in a bowl game with 45 guys. I think that puts a lot of stress on you. And so that's something that coaches are going to have to look at, how hard and how firm they're standing on that. If you're getting ready for a bowl game, you know some guys are going in the portal. but you don't have 16 O-linemen anymore like Smoke says. You might have 8. And is that the best thing for your football team? That has to be weighed also.
Well, I mean, this is a modern day and age of football that we're in. You can't go into saying that, well, since you're leaving my program, you can't stay in here anymore. Because you have to. I mean, you don't want to go into a game not having the right amount of players on your team. The goal of playing a game is to do what, Coach?
Win the game.
Win the game. So whoever I got to take with me that's on scholarship at the moment, you got to come in. But we also have to understand that once a player gets into the portal, there's a few things that's not going to happen if you're doing business the right way, Coach. That player is not removed and say, get out of here, don't come back. No, you still have your opportunity to go to study hall because we want to make sure that you graduate and make sure you have your grades. If you're hurt, understand that you can go into our training room and get rehabilitation. And if you need to train, you can train, but you just can't be a part of our team in situations of training, eating, or at study hall. But if you're doing the business the right way, they're still a part of your team, regardless of how you look at it.
But most coaches don't look at it like that. Smoke. As soon as those guys go in the portal, they get in their emotions, they get in their feelings, they don't talk to the kid anymore. It becomes a media situation. If I was coaching, I would allow the guys to play in the bowl game because you can repair some of those situations over the next 30 days of practice as well on both sides. So I think with the fluidity of the roster, I just think that it should be a different approach that you should look at.
Well, the approach that you have is you want to win. Remove the emotions from it, and we all understand right now with NIL, it's business at hand. So when it's business, remove emotions from it and understand there's numbers and it's a transaction.
Yeah, and those relationships are so important. I remember sitting down at this table with former NC State quarterback MJ Morris on Monday and him saying, I'm headed back to school. Like you go back, you have to continue these things. And so to handle that the right way, both from a coaching and a player perspective is so important. Speaking of coaches, when we talk to them about this time of year, they tell us that it's absolute chaos and they wish they could adjust the calendar and change some things. So how would you maybe fix this time of year to ease that pressure?
Well, to ease the pressure just from the side of being on the general manager side and also coaching, there's a few things that I would do. One, I would eliminate the 2 periods that you can sign a year. I would have an early signing period. With the early signing period would be high school only. So that's a December period. I would remove the February signing period and have a December one and a January one for the portal. So you alleviate the jumble of high school and college guys. Have a high school signing period and a transfer portal signing period and remove the February signing period to make it all easier for everybody to understand what they need to do and how to do it. And second, I would have the staff members in the recruiting department on the road because there's too many players that we need to visit, see, interact with, get pertinent information from that 10 coaches can actually get that done. It just wears them out. And at the end of the day, becomes January and February, these coaches are running on fumes.
I've never understood, why the recruiting staffers couldn't go on the road, but that's we can do a whole other show about that. What I would do, I would eliminate the early signing period with the exception of you graduating early and you going to school in January. I think only guys should be able to sign early are the guys that are leaving school at the semester. Everybody else should have to wait till the February period. But I'm also not of the opinion that this has to be woe is me, like this is so hard and everything needs to be changed. Coaches are making millions and millions of dollars. If you're making $5 million, $8 million, $10 million a year as a head coach, if you're making $300,000, $500,000, $800,000 as an assistant coach, you can't recruit. You can't deal with the transfer portal. Like you're not an essential worker. You're not a school teacher. You don't have a hard life. You're not a fireman, a doctor. You're not doing you're coaching football and you're getting paid like a really, really wealthy CEO to do so. And this is the life that you chose. It's a lot of complaining going on for guys that are making millions and millions of dollars. That guy who coaches high school football in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and he has to teach 7 hours of math and he makes $37,000 a year, he's wore out. He's got problems. That dude that comes through your neighborhood that coaches the Little League team and he has to pick every kid up, buy every kid something to eat on the way home and drop every kid off, that dude's got problems. He's wore out. Dude's making $5 million a year to coach football. I don't want to hear it.
So you're saying don't cry me a river. Just build a bridge and get over it?
Build a bridge and get over it. And then when you get fired, They still, you get $20 million on the way out.
Money's still coming in.
Yeah, still coming in. I don't want to hear it.
I love that you compared it to a CEO because we don't sit down and talk about them and say how difficult their lives are. How much sympathy do you have?
I don't have much sympathy because I've been in there and it's work. When you show up to work, you do the work. You don't complain about what you have to do in the work. Because I always just say when, we're sitting around there and we're going through a long dog's day of watching film and probably evaluating the players. And it's, oh man, I'm tired. I say, hey, listen, you just tell me when you're cashing that check on Friday when it hit your account, tell me how much you want to cry about it. Because right now, I don't think your bank account's saying much.
Guys fly around on private jets, maybe even a helicopter. Worst case scenario, first class. They stay in 5-star, 4-star hotels. They have the finer things in life. Kids go to the best private schools money can buy, but they working too hard.
I'll give you a little tidbit how the hustle is. All those guys staying in those Marriott properties, they're staying in those Marriott properties, they're getting points, and they're having a real good vacation at the end of the
absolutely.
season.
Well, it's totally free. Hitting that like button. It's also what makes this content free for you to enjoy. So go ahead and smash that like button if you have not already. It really helps us out. Help out the people here, because I think now that we've gone through a few cycles of this portal windows and everything that's happening there, now the theory is, what's the best way of doing this? So for programs who are doing this the right way, put yourself back in that general manager role. What is the proper balance with portal and high school recruiting?
Well, for me, it all depends on where you're at. You can go with a model of, if I'm at a program that high school players aren't that really good in that state, a la, say, a Mississippi State, where we're struggling, I would have to say I'm going to hammer the portal and go 70% portal, 30% high school. If I'm at a rich school where I can get real good high school players and build my team through the high school ranks, I can go 80-20. But it all depends on where you're at, who you can afford to be, and what your value is for each player. Because a lot of schools can't afford to be portal heavy. And they have to build it the proper way of high school than portal.
Well, Smoke, you hit it on the head. You talked about where do you coach at. I think that there's only a handful of schools who can build it through high school from a foundational standpoint. And I even think those programs were already built when the portal started. And so we don't know if they could have built it up from scratch if everybody was starting from the same position. But there's certain high schools, or certain colleges, I should say, that aren't as attractive to high school recruits. They're not blue blood, so to speak. So they have to recruit portal players to be able to have a competitive balance with the people that they're playing. So if you can't get those elite level high school players, then you can find a better player in the transfer portal.
Afford you can afford to be.
So ideal, you have the money to do this, you have the infrastructure to do it. I'm thinking of the programs that are competing for the college football playoff. Carl, what's the ideal way to build a championship program?
I would go 40% high school, 40% transfer portal, and I would go 20% grad transfer. Guys who are going to only be there for one season.
I mean, we're seeing Georgia's about to bring in 28 new commits, and they're a team that's competing for national championships.
We can't use Georgia as the metric. Everybody in Georgia, the only other program comparable to that is Alabama. So we can't use Georgia and Alabama as the metric for everybody else. Those are what we call exceptions to the rule.
And I'm a 70-30 guy. 70% high school, 30% transfer portal. Just because I've always thought of the transfer portal to supplement my team. Pieces that I'm missing, if I need to have an older guy there to bridge the gap, yeah, we'll do that. But at the end of the day, I want to build because I believe in culture. I believe in development. And that's the best way that you can have a foundation of a strong program, because we're here for the long haul. We're just not here for a quick fix.
Here's what we overlooking, though, because we talking quick fix. The high school kids are the greatest number that's going to go in the portal when they don't play immediately. So you're not going to get time to develop those guys. That era is over of you redshirt a guy, and he plays a little bit as a redshirt freshman. He starts by his redshirt sophomore year. We're past that. If you get a guy to the transfer portal and he has 3 years of eligibility, maybe even 4, then he has to stay. He can only transfer once. So you have a better opportunity of getting that kid in your program 3 years if he's already on his first transfer, because he can't transfer again unless he graduates. So you have to also adjust based on that rule. I think that you have a better chance of developing guys if you can get them while they're young after one transfer, because they'll be in your program longer just because of the rules.
That's what I was going to say, too, is you see a player like Dante Moore. He was just in high school last fall, and so it still feels like kind of a mix between that high school player that you can still develop and then a player that's technically in the portal. We have a viewer question that I really want you guys to answer because I'm so intrigued by this. Wanting to know, looking forward, will we eventually see a salary cap in college sports? Carl, you want to hit that first?
I think that potentially we could, and I think that we should. And I think that would help the coaches in the game, and it would still get the players paid. What they weren't anticipating, when everybody started NIL, they wanted marketing deals. Who has marketing deals? Caleb Williams. Bryce Young had some. You talking about guys who won the Heisman?
2%.
Travis Hunter, Shador, they have some. So that's a very small number of guys who can get true marketing deals. What they weren't anticipating is the collective. The collective they were not prepared to deal with the collective, and even the collective's not prepared to deal with the collective because we're hearing so many stories about kids not getting paid. If you can give everybody a salary cap and they can have some kind of fun where the players can get paid, it'll be better for everybody.
Thinking about it, you would say yes. But at the end of the day, what is a salary cap? Mm-hmm. And how many teams are going to go buy the salary cap? Because unlike the NFL, I mean, you still have boosters, mm-hmm. you still have handlers, mm-hmm. that the salary cap should be at $1 million. Mm-hmm. But the young man over there is going to nudge the booster from his area and say, hey, listen, I need an extra $100,000. So it's just, how do we properly even maintain the salary cap? And what's the rules and the guidelines in the salary cap? But I do believe that the only way that this thing goes the proper way and for longevity is to have a salary cap. But then you're going to have unions. Then you're going to have to get in tax. It sounds good, but
it's more to it than that.
It's more to
well,
it.
you know what rules, you're going to always have rule breakers with rules. There's an old guy I met from Chicago once. He said, well, if you outlaw alcohol, then all the outlaws will still have alcohol. So you're going to be in a situation with that where there's going to always be rule breakers.
Thank you both for this very thoughtful discussion. I really appreciate it. We're not going to solve all of college football problems today, but I feel like, hope you guys agree, we got just a little bit closer, maybe.
We moved the bar a little bit.
Move the bar a little bit closer. I love it. Thank you both so much for being here. Hey, if transfer portal is what we consider college football's equivalent to free agency, well, the draft is coming up in less than 2 weeks. National Signing Day on December 20th. Like we were Monday with Portal Palooza, we are your one-stop shop for all things signing day. So tune in December 20th for all-day signing day coverage.